What's up, guys? It's Ricky, and on this particular episode, I am here with Bizrat, and we are doing a two-part breakdown video on a video that we saw on the EFF podcast. And I'm gonna let leadership to greet you guys, and then we're gonna get straight right into it. Leadership.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Ricky. And it's always good to be on Church Reality Check. And this is good for the gospel. And it's good for the faith that we continue to collaborate like this. But also,
Yeah.
even the topics that we're covering as well. It's really to equip the body for people to be able to discern really
Mm.
what is truth and what is deception. So we're living in a time where there's so much deception. And I think that standing up for truth and being able to discern what is happening in the world is really important. So yeah, it's very good to be here, sir.
Well, most definitely. And so, yeah, guys, go check out Bizrat's video. We'll on that video we speak about the point position of identity and so forth. We're going to extend that here, but here I want us to take it a little bit of a different route. I didn't tell leadership what route, but
It's okay.
do go over there, and when you get over there, do subscribe. Leadership now is doing content full time, so do go over there, subscribe to the channel and support the ministry. All right, leadership, you can bring up the video. Let's start with it. And also, the time when you see this video, we're going to release the videos at 6 o'clock, because 8 o'clock I think is a little bit late. I've noticed 6 o'clock is better. So
Yeah,
6, when you see
sure.
this video, his video will be up as well. All right.
All right.
If you can help us understand who is Gogo or Brimachique.
Well, Gogo Dungezweni, which is my ancestral name, the name that the ancestors gave me, Obri Machik,
Okay.
is a man.
Pause.
Now, as you saw,
There is something that's quite interesting for me there at that point. You know, I find it interesting that ancestors are giving people names. You know, it's something I had never really thought about. But when you sent me this video and you're like, leadership, let's do a reaction on this one. That's when it really stuck out to see. Interesting
Yeah.
that even us, when we are born, our human parents are given leadership over us, and they give us names. So my mother and father give me a name, and then which is the guardians that are there for me. Now, immediately after that, when we die and we go to heaven, the Bible says, for those that are born again, we are given a name when we meet God. And then when a person, notice this point, when a person follows through in their discipleship, which means when a person is devoted to God's mission, they get a special name. I thought that was quite an interesting one, that someone has been given a name by their parents, but then even their second name is from their parents. So it's in the line of their bloodline.
Absolutely.
While in salvation, we get a name from our parents, and then the second name we get it from God, our creator. So I thought it says a lot. Who is your creator? Is it your ancestors?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh God. Who defines you, right?
Exactly. I thought that was quite an interesting one. Yeah.
No, it's a good point.
I hesitated because
just
as
take
a
it back a little
spiritual
bit.
being,
See, because
ancestral name, the name that the ancestors gave me, Obri Machik,
Okay.
is a man. Now, as you saw, I hesitated because as a spiritual being, I live in a non-gendered spiritual environment.
Stop.
So that's why I hesitate to say I'm a man.
Now, that's another thing there. That it's quite a very interesting one, that with all this African spirituality and stuff like that, it explains why they have uniforms and why you need to wear these uniforms, and you need to have all these things, you need to have these pandlas and whatnot and all these things, because it's this idea of that you're a spiritual. Bazalani, I don't want us to become ignorant here. We need to be very careful how we deal with this particular point of I'm spiritual. You're spiritual, but your first point of contact are human.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people who claim spirituality, then they want to become almost invincible to the humanity that they are made. That's why he says, how are you reverent of God and you are opposed to your brother whom you see? And so there's this idea that we are losing. And also it goes to this point that he just mentioned now, that he's almost hesitant about saying that he is a man.
He's a man, yeah. Embarrassed.
How? He's so spiritual that gender is restricting him. Come on, man. Let's realize what's happening is that we are taking on a doctrine that strips us of our humanity, and it's very much important we understand our humanity to understand our salvation. Okay,
absolutely.
It's in our humanity we were redeemed. Our humanity needed redemption. Therefore, but then if I'm spirit right now, I'm kind of the fall doesn't affect me. You see what they're skipping?
Yeah. No consequence.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Yeah,
no, I fully agree, because people can now define themselves however they want. And I think for us as Christians, we need to understand that our identity is received. And it's not something that you can decide for yourself, whether it's your African identity, right? So someone can wake up today and say, I'm no longer a black person. Well, you just can't. You can wake up tomorrow. You can't. You can wake up tomorrow and say, I'm no longer a man. Well, guess what? You can't, because this is something that has been assigned to you at birth. It is given to you as a gift. And even when it comes to our salvation, again, our identity is given to us by Christ as a gift, right? It's not something that we achieve in and of ourselves. And so this is just a general principle on identity, that it's something that God gives us, and God has the right to define us because he is the one who created us. And so when people then now say, well, it is this spiritual thing that is now giving me a new identity, this is why Christians believe that these things are actually demonic. Because why would they undermine what God has assigned, right? So God creates you like a woman at birth, and then somehow there's something that can come and say otherwise. It's almost like the serpent in the garden that wants to undermine what God has said, and it comes with a counterfeit proposal to say, what if you could define yourself? What if you can be like God? You see, to me, these things are just indicative of the deception that is out there. But there's clearly these spiritual forces that are behind it.
Another thing again, the hesitation. By the way, we're not undermining how he chooses to identify himself. We're speaking about what deception. Remember, deception. No one is immune to being deceived. Okay, and I think sometimes we grow wise in our own ways, and then we think, you know what, that's it. Nobody can tell me anything. You can get into a lot of errors in that particular space. And so when he says how he identifies himself, I just leave a little bit of room to think there might be deception in that. Okay. Why? What does it do? Leadership. What does it do if I misidentify a person? And I'm talking about, by misidentify, I'm not talking about what the trans people are dealing with. I'm talking about there's even laws now that they're trying to put for people being like from a legal perspective, or how police used to interact with people by how they are identified, or how they are dressed, or how they look and stuff like that. By so doing, by just there have been people that have been arrested because they were misidentified. There were certain
Absolutely.
aspects of things that look like someone, and then before you know it, identity creates
Absolutely.
a way one navigates life, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think just to add on what you're saying, leadership, if somebody, let's just say it's a white person, woke up and said, I would like to identify myself as superior to all other races,
Mm.
what all of us black people will say, you just can't. It's not up to you. It's just, this is just something that all of us know we're all equal and so on. So that's the
Mm.
danger of you giving yourself the identity that you'd like, is that in the end, you will end up undermining other people's identity, because if you are skewed in your identity, then how do you relate to people? Like you mentioned this in the other video. How do you relate to people of the opposite sex when you are confused about your own gender, right? So it also leads to so much just distortion in relationships, to me, the way that I see it. And this is why I think people just need to, just surrender themselves to God and say, only you can define, because you are the one who created.
Yeah, and if you think about Genesis chapter number 6, this whole thing of not being sure, like what, we didn't even watch like 30 seconds, 30 seconds of the video, and there's that much that can lead you into an entire path if you think about it. In Genesis chapter number 6, there is a restriction that we see God has for beings that actually interacted or started interacting with humans, and these people or these spirits that did that, the Bible tells us they were chained for violating. Okay, the Nephilims that actually started communicating with people, because every single thought of the human became vile and evil, meaning that interaction was restricted. And so we have to be very careful about being identified by other beings. That's what brought the flood.
So good. Yeah.
It's not good. On the
Sure.
other one, we speak about how it relates with humans and thingy. And on this one, I'm talking about how does it then translate to you living and how your relationship. The Bible. We ought to think, our Father who art in heaven. Why am I giving another father? Can another father from another house come and give me a name?
No, absolutely not.
Guys, think about it. Think about if God is your creator. The way they always insert God somewhere. They just insert him somewhere and just keep him packed away or something like
Absolutely. Yeah.
But he is the one that has the right to identify you. Okay? And he separates you. Leadership, think about it. When we read my head is flooded with verses, and so I can't even pick one. When we read in the New Testament, and Paul is writing the epistles, you see how he has an issue with people not prioritizing the fellowship with other believers. He actually restricts. He says, be very careful with people who have brought up the ascension of a worship of angels. Just be very careful with people that are busy with angels and beings and whatnot. But if a person departs himself from the fellowship with other believers, he says, be careful of these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Bible is crafting a way of us creating communication. And so speaking to that people, no. He says speak to other people. So I must be defined where I am supposed to be interacting. But then if we are losing that interaction or the importance of I'm not a spirit first. I'm put here as a body first.
Absolutely.
My spirit is saved. I'm trying to align this bodily being to what my spirit man has received, which is salvation.
Sure.
It's so important. That's why people wake up and they're like, I don't want to go to church. What is this church? No, you are missing the point. There is a fellowship amongst there. As a matter of fact, the Bible talks about it as we have an inheritance among the saints. There's something about that fellowship with people. Live spirit.
Absolutely.
First Corinthians. What is First Corinthians about? The relationship with other people. Okay, we ought not to see ourselves more higher than others. And he says, you guys, you are carnal. I'm addressing you as carnal because you are sounding like babes. You have not put forward this relationship that you have amongst you. He even puts forward a punishment for a person who is violating that fellowship. When he speaks about our communion, when we take communion and a person is in violation of that, hey, you will bring sickness to yourself. Relationships with people, not spirits.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's stop this stuff, guys. Let's stop this stuff. Y'all are going the wrong direction. Leadership.
Absolutely.
Closing thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think on my side, leadership, I think you've pretty much highlighted everything that is important. I think that people are just going on a very dangerous path. And so returning back to the word of God, that's where we'll find our identity. That's where we'll find truth. That's where masculinity will be affirmed. That's where the femininity will be affirmed. A man is a man because the word of God affirms that. A woman is a woman because the word of God affirms that. And really, it's God that has the right to tell us, to dictate to us as to who we are, because he's the one who placed us here. He's the one that's given us purpose. And we cannot achieve or accomplish that purpose if we turn against the very person that has brought us here. So those are my thoughts, leadership.
You know, even in closing here, before you guys go over to watch Bizret's video, if you think about why is it that people have all these things about the Da Vinci Code and Jesus had a wife, it's because at a certain point they feel like they have not made a clear distinction between God and themselves. You know, and so when now you are spirit, okay, when you're spirit,
you have the
you
power
feel
and
like
authority now.
now you've given yourself that type of power, and so you don't have a clear distinction. This is so important because then that's where people get into that area, because they feel like now I've ascended to a point where there must be a clear thingy. Jesus must have had a wife. I mean, like, I burn with lust, and so Jesus must have burned with lust, because you haven't made a clear distinction. And so y'all can go check out Bizret's video on this particular subject, but you have to be very careful when it comes to this particular subject, because y'all are going wild. It's Ricky, and we're done.
Thank you.